Um, I'm pretty sure everyone here knows the situation. The Ionic Digital shareholders have been pretty much left in the dark since we emerged out of bankruptcy. Um, Myself and a bunch of others obviously are not very happy. The board has not done anything that would instill any kind of confidence. The whole process started during the bankruptcy where they kind of just, there's a lot of self dealing going on. The main perpetrators of the self dealing, the UCC members, the people involved in, valuing the plans, the people that, self elected, gave themselves board seats. Everyone knows who they are. We're talking about Scott Duffy, we're talking about Tom DeFiore, and we're talking about Manny Idu. Somehow, out of pure coincidence and luck, they seem to have secured themselves these board seats that they would definitely not get any other way. There is not a single Bitcoin mining company that is looking at these three individuals and saying we need to have them on our board. And if they are, they're probably looking at bankruptcy ahead, right? Um, to make matters worse, we voted on a plan. The plan failed, right? With Fahrenheit, the SEC blocked it. And part of the plan is we would have a wind down entity, which would be just a mining operation. It would be funded with $50 million. And, we would hope for the best, right? Maybe they can manage it. Maybe they could salvage the situation. Maybe we can get a return on that investment. But it was a gamble. So these three individuals decided 50 million is not enough. I want this board seat. I want to get pretty significant compensation, allegedly. So it went from 50 million to 225 million. And then they kind of snuck it in there, an extra however many Bitcoin. So you're looking at roughly 250 million or so of shareholders' cash, of creditors' money, basically, that they just gave themselves. And, I don't know about the rest of you, but I kind of just took it as a loss. This was a bad investment, although I didn't willingly make the investment, it is what it is at this point. Hopefully they can list on the NASDAQ. Hopefully we can get some liquidity. I didn't expect to get the full $20 per share that they told us it was worth. Honestly, I wasn't even sure if I can get $10 a share. But then everything kind of went sideways. We went through a long period of silence. Nobody said a word. Turns out the auditor quit. Turns out the CEO quit. Turns out we're on our, third CFO? Fourth? I don't even know now. Third, I believe. We're on our second in-house counsel. I haven't seen a single document signed by this counsel, right? They're using they're using an outside party to provide counsel to them. So we have an attorney that doesn't seem to be doing much, but I'm sure we're paying him very well. We put the new CFO, in as the interim CEO. What qualifications does he have to be an interim CEO? Probably not much, right? We have a revolving door of board members. They didn't even notify us that board members were dropping like flies. Now we're looking at 6 board members. They brought on 2 new ones. No one really knows their track record. If you look at the companies that they're associated with, it's not great, right? One of them, the company, I think, got delisted. The other one is Spirit Airlines. They're not exactly thriving right now. So it's not looking good. On top of that, we have Abbate, who we were paying $20 million plus all the other expenses a year. They had a deadline of, I believe it was June, to get this company listed on the NASDAQ. That didn't work out. And instead of terminating the contract like they should have, like they were supposed to, according to the contract, they re-upped. And they increased the termination fee to get out of the contract. Yeah, we say $5 million, but I'm sure Hade is going to make a ton of it off of our backs. There's a lot of issues we have here. That's kind of why we started this whole process. But I think it's very important that we do what should have been done in the beginning, which is think about the shareholders, think about the creditors. And then if this is a salvageable business, if this is something that can be maintained, if this is something that maybe has some value, then we can focus on that later. But right now, there's a lot of value that was extracted from shareholders, and we haven't seen anything that would, give us confidence that we can get some of that back. That's my opening monologue. We all know the story. I just wanted to, I guess, rehash some things.
Tony, do you want to talk a little bit about the shareholder demand process and how important it is for everyone to fill out the form that we emailed and briefly give the overview of what we're trying to achieve with the special meeting?
Yes. All right. So the process, which I guess we kind of all expected, is pretty difficult. They didn't do us any favors. We are required to have 25% of all shareholders essentially signing an affidavit that says, I'm a shareholder of this company. Sorry, I'm a shareholder of this company. This is the name that the shares are held under, whether it's your personal name or a corporation, LLC, whatever. These are the amount of shares I have, and this is the goal that we are seeking to achieve in this meeting, right? The initial, I guess, roundup of information, we weren't sure if we can get 25%. And 25% is higher than normal. Normally, it's like 15%. But in this scenario, whatever is 25%. The difference here compared to other companies is that if you look at another company, let's say, I don't know, Amazon, right? There's usually a singular shareholder like a BlackRock or Vanguard or whoever that will own a large portion of shares. Someone will own like 5-10%, and then you really only need a handful of people kind of gathering together, and you can call these meetings. But in this situation, we have something like 80,000 shareholders, and I think the largest shareholder is like a fraction of 1% ownership. So it would take a huge portion of people. I think we got like 5,000 people or so the first time around that signed up, basically saying that they're interested in making this thing happen. We've had some communications with the board. It's been slow. So at this point, I think our best bet is to just let's call this meeting. Let's get this done. If they want to handle this thing, in a simpler manner, if they want to come to some type of agreement to get rid of those guys, we're all ears. We don't want to drag this out. We don't want to spend more money than we've already wasted on this whole process. But it is what it is, right? We're going to call this shareholder meeting. And the emails that everyone either got from me or from Figure, and I think Simon is sending emails. I'm not sure when, probably shortly. Basically, this is the affidavit that I was talking about. And I created a tutorial. Let me put it in the comments when I get a chance. But you're just essentially signing your name to our demand letter. And the demand letter says that this is what we hope to accomplish, right? We want to remove Tom, Scott, and Manny from the board for cause. Company bylaws, you can't just remove someone, you have to have an actual cause. Although I personally believe there's cause pretty much everyone involved. There's very, very clear cause for these three. So let's go easy. We don't need to make this more difficult than it already is, right? The second thing we want to do, we want to grant immediate liquidity to shareholders. That's where Figure comes in. During the bankruptcy process, I had a lot of dealings with Mike Cagney, also with Mike Abbate when he was part of NovaWulf. But I had a lot with Cagney as a member of the loans group. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was a great experience. I look at Cagney as someone that I believe, right, that I think I can trust. They were phenomenal when it came to refinancing the loans for the loans guys. There was a lot of situations where maybe some of the other lenders couldn't pull through. I would call either, Mike Abbate or Cagney or June or whoever, and they would resolve these matters right away. The Figure blockchain is unique in a sense that you can take equity. It's a licensed ATS, an alternative trading system. You can take equity, which is now basically on paper, right? Because the Ionic equity isn't listed anywhere. So it's basically just a sheet of paper that says you own X amount of shares. So you can take that equity, you can tokenize it. No one wants to hear that word, but right, you can tokenize it. And then they have the unique ability where we can pay future dividends, future distributions, whatever you want to call it, in kind, in Bitcoin. So now Ionic is currently sitting on 2,000 plus Bitcoin. I think it's over $200 million worth right now. It would be great if we can get a lot of that back. That they should have never held that. They should have never got the 225 million, but they got it. It is what it is. This company doesn't need that. If it's run well, it doesn't need more than a fraction of that. So one thing that we can do on the Figure blockchain is we can distribute some of that in the form of a dividend. It will be in kind, and I'm pretty sure everyone here has Bitcoin through their Celsius claims. So it would be, I'm not a tax expert, don't take this as tax advice, right? But in my eyes, it would be a tax advantage way of getting some type of distribution. So that's the side on Figure. Also, we don't have a CEO for the company. Nothing against Penver. He seems like a very nice guy. I'm pretty sure he's regretting joining this company. But he's a CFO by trade, right? So, so we're looking to appoint a qualified CEO. And the person that we've kind of thrown under the bus here is Mr. Abbate. I don't know if he's going to want this job. I don't think he does. It's not going to be easy, but he can handle it, right? He's been doing this a long time. He has tons of relationships. He's more than qualified for the position. And then the last part is to get rid of Abbate, like we should have already done a long time ago. During the bankruptcy, they made, a ridiculous amount of promises. We're going to list on NASDAQ right away. We're going to do this, this, and this. None of those promises have been held, in my opinion, right? We should have canceled that contract when the time came. We were looking to cancel our contract now. We have a mining partner. I don't think we can disclose that just yet. However, we got it down to a fraction of the cost, right? We're paying $15 million. We got that down. Did I say the amount? A lot, right? A very small portion of that amount. No termination fee. These are people that are reputable. Abbate builds trailer park looking facilities. Just look at the pictures of the facilities they're built. That's not exactly something we're looking forward to as shareholders. So we need to see what we have first and foremost, see how much money they burn through, see how much value is there, and then we can open it up, right? Part of the process that is very frustrating to a lot of people is that we were issued this equity and they threw out a ridiculously absurd valuation. That's not a real valuation of this company. Nobody believes that this is a $720 million corporation. I don't think it is. I don't think anyone thinks it is. So we need to see what its real value is, right? So we plan to open up a Dutch auction. Basically, what is the market willing to pay for these assets? What are these assets worth? And then from there, we can have a real type of auction. Doesn't mean you're going to sell, but we're going to see how much people are willing to pay for this. In an ideal scenario, somebody comes in, throws a huge check at us, everyone gets their cash on the Figure blockchain. It can auto convert into Bitcoin. We can get our distributions in Bitcoin. Figure is able to do that, right? More realistic scenario, maybe it gets, an all stock deal, maybe a Bitcoin miner, maybe a hyperscaler wants to acquire this. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of possibilities out there, but none of these possibilities are able to happen with this current board. I don't think they can handle it. I mean, the amount of people we have that are on board with this meeting indicates that you guys don't think they can handle it. And their track record, if we're honest, indicates that they can't handle it. All right. So that's that. I don't know if either of the mics, if you guys want to say something as well.
No, I mean, I'm happy to take folks' questions. I think you covered the points extremely well. As just to build on that liquidity construct, our expectation would be that, the first thing we would do is allow the shares to trade, which today they can't. I think we have, in fact, I know we have capital that's interested in buying shares. We ourselves would buy shares as well. I think the second step is standing up a Dutch auction to open secondary trading on the ATS. We would raise the capital for that and as much capital as needed. And, the third step is getting a market maker. In fact, I think we would get two in on the ATS to ensure liquidity for folks to be able to get in and out. And so that's really how we're approaching that side of the equation. And to Tony's point, we don't know exactly what the books and records look like. They've not exposed them. We've not seen them. Our goal would be to distribute whatever excess is there into shareholders and do that in a crypto native way. And by the way, if you sold the stock, you could sell it and turn that into USDC or Bitcoin or whatever it is you want to turn it into to pull it back to your wallet. But our not knowing what it looks like, we don't know what that transaction is yet. But the intent is to get whatever excess is out of the company as quickly as possible, provide day one liquidity, provide a secondary market where folks can trade, whether they want to buy, they want to sell, or they, whatever it might, or hold, whatever it might be. And maintaining as much transparency and communication along the way as possible. And sometimes as part of this process, there's things we're going through where we can't talk about what we're doing or what's going on. And I apologize when we go a little bit dark on these things. But in general, I think we've demonstrated we're pretty accessible and pretty transparent. And so, just we'll maintain the dialogue with the community. The key for everyone, and also to Tony's point, we didn't do a false start on this. We just didn't know if we could really get over 25% of the shareholders to lean in and agitate for this change. And so we wanted something really easy, really quick. Just go, put your name, share account, and email so we have you, and we'll run from that. We were very happy with the amount of response that came off of that. And so that's why we're going through the formal affidavit process. This is required by Delaware law for us to demonstrate we have true shareholder support for the transaction or for the board meeting and the discussion. I apologize. The form's gone down a couple of times. It's, as I tweeted out earlier, it's a little bit of a high class problem because there's a lot of demand, but I know it's a pain in the butt. It went down again this morning. We've got it back up. But what I'd ask everyone is just pledge your shares for the meeting. Now, remember, when you pledge your shares for the meeting, you're not pledging your shares for the plan yet. The plan would be discussed and it would be open to shareholder vote at that point. So even if you have reservations about what we're talking about, what we're proposing, at the very least, force an open dialogue with the governance of this company, where we can lay out what we think the issues are and have a frank discussion on it. And so, looking forward to getting everyone's support and go out and, evangelize as much as you can, talk to your friends, especially the ones off Twitter. We'll get, as soon as we get over 25, we will send the request in for the meeting. Tony, I'll hand it back to you.
All right. So I put it in the comments over here. I made a quick little tutorial. I don't know if anyone has questions. It'd probably be easier if someone has questions. We could just handle the questions in real time. I think the tutorial kind of, I don't want to say dumbed it down, but it made it as easy as we possibly could. There's a lot of, loops we have to jump through. But I think we got it down to be as simple as possible while also keeping all the requirements in place. Realistically, it should only take like 5 minutes. You could probably get it done in less, but the plan was to get this as quickly or make it as easy as possible so people can fill it out as quickly as possible. The one thing about Celsius, which is unique to most companies, it's a U.S. corporation, but a lot of people live outside the U.S. There's a ton of Australian guys. There's a ton of people in Europe. It's everywhere. Alex Mashinsky, I guess he did a good job of defrauding everyone and everywhere at once, right? Which is unfortunate, but here we are. So let's open this up to questions. I think Santiago, if you want to go, you were first, I believe.
That he did, Tony. That he did, right? He did not discriminate when defrauding. So he's certainly a global, a universal defrauder for sure. We really appreciate you guys. Well, I know I really appreciate you guys and everything you're doing. I want to say, have you guys looked at the lock mechanism, the locking period behind the shares? I want to make sure that people that have urgent need to to access liquidity. I don't know if that's something that needs to be presented on the front end. I don't know what that mechanism looks like, but I understand that there was some locking mechanism post IPO where people maybe could not liquidate or access liquidity. So maybe that's just something to keep in mind as we go through this process. I just wanted to yeah.
Yeah, so the shares were issued through a process called 1145 in Chapter 11, and the shares are public equity. They're just not traded anywhere. And the fact that they're non-transferable was the company's decision. There's no regulatory reason why they can't be traded. And so, as I said, the first thing we would do day one is eliminate the prohibition of transfer of shares. So if people want to sell day one, they'll be able to sell. There's not going to be a lockup or an insider period or anything along those lines. The board, we're going to change the compensation structure to be equity based. That will vest, but that's the only lockup that you're going to have on here. The shareholders are going to have that liquidity, have that ability to transfer immediately.
That's brilliant, Mike. Okay, perfect. The only other thing I wanted to kind of understand is, can you guys speak to, is there any kind of good faith? It might be laughable, right? Is there any open lines of dialogue or fluidity with communication with the in-place board?
So there's some dialogue going on. It's very nascent, and I wouldn't want to raise expectations or hopes on it, but there has been some dialogue, and we expect there to continue to be some dialogue as we're going through the process.
Okay, very well. Well, to the extent anything else that we can do for you guys, just let us know.
Yeah, appreciate it. And reinforcing Tony's point he made earlier, we would rather find an amicable way to do this than have the fight. We're ready to have the fight. But if we don't have to have the fight, it saves everyone a lot of time and money to find a better solution. So, but our objectives are very clear. We're not going to compromise on what we're asking for.
Yeah, I mean, also you got to look at it. We're essentially paying through our cash to fight against our own interests, right? Shareholders believe that, we're in the right here, and the company, albeit to save themselves, are using our cash to save themselves. So we're not trying to rack up a huge bill. We would prefer to get this done quietly, quickly, efficiently, but it takes two to do that.
Yeah, and maybe I can just jump in and kind of piggyback on that point. That's why it's so important, if I can get one thing out of this call, is to really get everyone here to spread the word, how important it is to fill out that form. Because you have rights as shareholders, and there are laws. And those rights and desires and wishes will be upheld to the extent that the shareholders make them known. And what Tony and Mike Cagney and Figure and I are trying to do is help the shareholders collectively communicate that message to the company. And so that I know it's a pain to fill out another form, but please just go through, fill out the form, tell your friends, tell the other shareholders, because once we have that 25% that that we can call that meeting, your wishes and wills will be executed. But we got to get there first, and we've had the indication that we'll get there, given the earlier correspondence. We just got to make sure we follow through the second time with this longer form.
No, the Coen brothers would love this script. This whole thing is absolutely laughable. We appreciate you guys. I'm sure that they're probably talking to Alex right now. By the way, 2025 is just around the corner, so we all hope to see Alex behind bars here real soon. So.
Yeah, I think Alex would be proud of Ionic right now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so we got Chris, FA.
Yes, Tony, thanks. We keep talking about the 25%. Is there any indication where we are in terms of reaching that 25%? Does anybody know how far away we are at this point?
So when we did the indication of interest, we had over 30%, and so our expectations are, people follow through, we'll be over that 25% threshold. But every vote counts, every share counts, and the bigger the number, the more influence it's going to have, and the bigger stick we're going to wield coming into this discussion.
Okay, and then a follow-up question: at this point today, I would venture to guess that the shares are not worth $20. Anybody want to guess what they're worth? If and when we get the opportunity to liquidate?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, $20 was, I think, the AUM valuing it at, what was it, 750 mil. So you guys can do the math on that.
Yeah.
At 250
So
mil, maybe two. Yeah. Sorry, Tony. Go ahead.
so there's real value there, but it's just a matter of how long this takes and how quickly they can bleed it dry, right? Which is kind of where the urgency is here. So if we just do simple back of the napkin math, $20 a share came out to like $40 million worth, right? They have, let's say, 200 million in Bitcoin. Let's say 100 million in cash right now. I have no idea. This is just going off of what Penver said in one of his hostage video, right? They have, 100 million in Bitcoin. So there's about 200 million of value there, roughly. So that's, sorry, let me just do quick math over here. So that's 27% of the value times 20. That's about $5 of value there just in cash. The facilities, I don't know what the facilities are worth, right? They could be worth 200 million. They could be worth 3. They could be worth a lot less. We don't really know till we get in there. We've seen a handful of pictures of progress being made. We don't really know if it's good progress. We don't know if they're building it correctly. HUD 8 basically just hired contractors. So we hired a third party to hire a third party to build these out. We don't really know how good of a job they're doing. So there's a lot of things that we really can't answer outside of what they have, the Bitcoin that we're able to track. There's about 2,000 Bitcoin, maybe a little bit more now since the last time we found out. So that's all we really know. Everything else we're pretty much just up in the air. We're in the dark on that.
Yeah. Tony, I'm going to just turn that question around and say not more or less what it's worth now or what we can make it worth, but more importantly, this current board has demonstrated over the last 9 months an incredible incompetency and an incredible talent for destroying value. So I can pretty confidently say that it's not worth a lot with the current board. The board has no experience in Bitcoin mining, has never run a business, is unsuited to be in the positions that they're suited. And it will clearly continue to be destroying value. They're cash flow negative right now. They have to enter into a CapEx cycle where they have to buy new machines. They don't have that money. It will be worth significantly less, if not most likely zero, with no liquidity unless a change is made.
And that change, from your perspective, is bringing in a potentially a mining company to buy it.
No, the first thing is to change the board, right? Change the board, get competent people with experience who know how to run the business, making the decisions, right? Then once that happens and then the information is properly analyzed and disclosed to shareholders, the different opportunities will be weighed. Processes will be run to the extent that they need to be run. Liquidity will be provided, as Mike described, but all of that will happen once the information is disclosed properly to the shareholders, which is the other big issue with this board. Not only have they performed poorly at their job, but they've been able to obfuscate their shortcomings, right? And you as the shareholders have the ability to shine the light on this and say, enough is enough. I need answers, and replace the people who have been, doing the harm and the wrongdoing. So you can see the light, so you can see the numbers and the answers and get the liquidity and the results that you deserve.
No, Michael, you're exactly right. But if I may add, like when we look at the balance sheet purely, like addressing the question of value, like you look at the balance sheet, we funded right as as creditors $250 million. They twisted our hand. We funded that as working capital. I believe 500 million was basically the cost basis of hardware. Right, we're talking about aging hardware. But to your point, the hardware is effectively worthless, absolutely worthless, because when you look at the EBITDA, right, it's at the value or at the current market value of the end commodity, the output, which is Bitcoin. We're basically breaking even, or effectively losing money, right? We got negative cash flow. But to the point about how do we add value, it really depends on market conditions, right? So it's all about like where does Bitcoin go, and are we profitable? Do we have positive EBITDA and all that stuff? So when we're talking about like what's the upside of this?
So let's look at it a little bit differently, right? It's very easy to say that the assets or whatever are worthless. Well, the reality is that they're not worthless, as in one word. They're just worth a lot less than they were. And every day that goes by, they will be worth less and less and less and less, right? The only real asset is probably the facilities, and we don't really know what they've done with the facilities. All we've seen is a couple of pictures from Asher, and that's about it. I think Brett posted like 3 or 4, and that's basically been it, right? That doesn't really show you anything, doesn't tell you anything. So I invest in Bitcoin mining companies. You know, I was investing a year ago when they were cheap. Now buying them doesn't make any sense. So we're gonna miss this entire bull run. You know, let's say they can get this thing listed, which I seriously doubt, right, on the Nasdaq. It's going to be done in the bear cycle. Nobody's going to be buying Bitcoin miners in the bear cycle. We're already going to have a ridiculous amount of sell pressure just from all of us that want to get out as quickly as possible. You're going to add the bear cycle on top of it. It's going to be a bloodbath. So what alternatives are they going to have to buy new fleet? They're going to have to take on really expensive debt. And now you're going to go from a company with a clean balance sheet, albeit the only reason it's clean is because we paid for all the equipment, to a company that now the balance sheet looks abysmal. They have a facility that may or may not be running properly. They have the other Midland facilities that, you know, from what I've heard, aren't exactly super valuable, right? And
No,
you
I
add
get.
all that, to a shareholder base that is unsatisfied, and you're looking at another Chapter 11.
I agree 100%, Tony, 100%. So, but I'm saying, I tend to agree with you. Like the miners right now, the bulk of the assets on the balance sheet are effectively worthless because they're losing money, right? And I agree with you. I think that it's likely that the regulatory environment, everything that's going on, the compliance, everything that has to happen for us to go public, it likely puts us in a position where we overshoot the bull and we're done for. So honestly, if we're being frank, it probably makes a lot less sense to liquidate all of the assets on the balance sheet or whatever and just kind of take our medicine. But let's just say if we can access liquidity, if you guys can work some magic, if we can actually go to the public markets or access liquidity in the next 6, 7, 8 months, and we get a bull run that gets pushed out, there may be, right? There may be, the possibility where we're actually, if Bitcoin, let's just say Bitcoin actually pumps, right? Let's smoke some hopium on this call, right? So what happens if Bitcoin actually pumps to 150K, 180K, 200K in summer of next year, and we're actually public? At that moment, we got a nice spread,
So,
right?
so let me
Let me just
stop
jump
you.
in, Tony, real quick.
Okay.
So, since emergence, right, Bitcoin has nearly doubled, right, from just under $40,000 to where it is today. The average mining stock has more than that. The average mining stock is up, nearly 3x. Okay, your investment under this management team has cratered in value. We can argue what that crater value is, but probably somewhere down to the order of 50 to 75% under this current management team. Under the scenario that you just described, Santiago, you would achieve none of that continued upside in the market.
Absolutely zero, Michael.
This management team needs to be replaced in order for you to to realize that.
100%
More
under.
importantly,
Yeah.
the bigger sin, in my opinion, right, is the restriction on trading which the company put in place, which in my opinion, right, is a violation of federal securities laws to think that a company board can restrict trading of a public equity security. And we plan on challenging that, right, if we can't get the result that we need through the special meeting or through negotiations. And so even if you had the view that this management team is weak and poor, and you wanted to sell your shares so you can buy Bitcoin or another Bitcoin miner, you don't have that choice or that optionality right now. And
100%.
that is the biggest wrong that we're trying to right.
100%. I totally agree with you. I was just saying under a current situation, and again, if you guys don't get involved, I wouldn't be surprised if we are exactly in the same situation where we have no access to liquidity, and we're basically stuck, all of the stockholders in the thick of the bull, call it July of next year. So I'm glad that you guys are in here so that we are in a position to actually capitalize on a potential upside of the bull. Because with the current situation, there's nothing going on right now. It's incredibly sad the way that the current creditor body is just honestly just getting, I don't know what it is. I don't even know the word for it. We're getting sacked over and over again.
So look at it like this, right? Because that narrative is one that pretty much every Bitcoin mining operation feeds their shareholders because they want people to buy the stock. It sounds good. In theory, it's fantastic. However, Satoshi had a fix for that, and it's called the difficulty adjustment. So as the price of Bitcoin goes up, people like Alex Mashinsky say, holy shit, these companies are minting money, basically. They're making money hand over fist. Let me get into this mining operation. And another company is going to do it. Let's say a government decides they want to do it. A country wants to do it. And now you look at the hash rate, and the hash rate is going up and up and up. As the Bitcoin price is going up, the hash rate is going higher and higher, and the difficulty is going higher and higher.
I'm sorry, Tony. I missed the whole pitch of the business thesis. Are you saying that the whole business plan is to liquidate, to take over and liquidate? Because I'm 100% down if that's what we're saying. Maybe I missed the first part of which is the actual.
So what I was saying is, just because the Bitcoin price goes up doesn't necessarily mean that you're making more money. It just means that the difficulty is going to go up, and you'll probably be making less Bitcoin. So unless your hash rate, unless you are growing exponentially as a company, as a miner, you may be making less money because everyone else is trying to grow, right? So other companies, let's say like CleanSpark, they started the year single-digit hash rate. They're already at 30. They plan to get to 50 by next year. We're at, I think, 7. So to keep up with CleanSpark, we would have to 3x just to mine the same amount of Bitcoin.
You're way more sophisticated than the market, Tony. I think the market is just looking for liquidity, right?
But I'm saying the market has to have a narrative that, as an investor like myself, I have to look at that narrative and be like, I want to put my dollars in there. So all these other companies are living that narrative. They're literally growing exponentially their hash rate. And for us, what are we doing to keep up with that? And there's nothing that we can do without a substantial amount of money. I'm talking, hundreds of millions, potentially even billions of dollars just to keep up. And at that kind of dilution, it may or may not be beneficial to us. So
Tony, we're going to sell Alex Mashinsky's penthouse in 2025.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
By new miners.
That might be the best investment that he made, the
New
York City real estate. But anyway, so the point, instead of us like going back and forth on this, so the main point is we don't really know what the best option is. It might be to sell to another Bitcoin miner. It might be to sell. Maybe Amazon wants to buy the facility. Who knows, right? We really don't know until we start having those discussions with these companies. The reason why we selected Mike Abbate as the interim or permanent CEO, whatever, to take over is that he has these types of relationships. I don't know if he has a relationship with Amazon. That was just a random example I threw out there. I'm just saying, he's been around a long time. He knows these people. He can get us to the right tables to have these discussions.
I hear Amazon's going nuclear, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, the stock is going nuclear in the wrong direction. But anyway, so So we need to have the right people in place, and they need to do what they've done their entire careers, and that is get us some value here, which is, I think we have the right team in place. And that might be a sale. That might be we continue operations. We don't really know, but we won't know until we're in there. And then it becomes a matter of, do you think the current board can handle it, or do you think that the group of people that we have can do a better job?
Yeah. I mean, frankly, there's a huge story around. I know I hate to, it's an election year, right? Electrons. We're electrifying electrons. But no, I mean, frankly, there's a big story around, I think, around data centers, right? Data centers and warehouses and AI and all that stuff. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we do hold those assets. I don't know how the market is pricing that, what the multiples are, if you have access to liquidity, what the repurposing is, as far as capex or what it takes. But there are things to analyze if we have intelligent people that are experienced, that are sitting on the board, right? That have a head on their shoulders, which we
So
don't.
look at it like this, right? The Cedarvale site we purchased from Core Scientific. Core Scientific was in bankruptcy in large part because of Mashinsky and because of Celsius Mining, but they were in bankruptcy. They emerged out of bankruptcy, and they signed, I forget what the numbers are, but something like a 10-year, $3 billion hosting contract with a hyperscaler. So they're going to be making money hand over fist. Cedarvale is literally the exact design of all of the Core Scientific buildings, right? So there's no reason why we can't get one of those contracts. But, ask yourself, if someone has 10 years at, $3 billion total to spend, are they going to look at Scott and Tom and be like, these are my guys? This is who I want to give this money to? Are they going to look at Manny I do and be like, yes, let me give this guy this crazy amount of money? Or are they going to look at real professionals?
Yeah, let me just expand on that, right? So the Core Scientific Core Weave deal was a 12-year deal, $4.7 billion, right, with upside to a $6.7 billion partnership, right? The question that you guys should be asking yourself is, even if this management team had the ability to design and execute on a deal like that, right now, that negotiation would be done by a competitor to the company. So why would Asher ever sign a deal like that for Ionic, where he has zero the economic upside on that, versus signing it for his other company where he has an economic interest on that
No,
price
it's
appreciation?
completely. They're absolutely conflicted. I mean, the whole build out, the governance of the whole thing is conflicted. I don't know. I don't understand how this isn't a huge fraud. It is a huge fraud, right? Everyone is absolutely self dealing left and right. It's crazy.
Right. So there's a way to fix this. You have shareholder rights. Fill out the form. Tell all your friends to fill out the form. We had 30%, as Mike said prior. The bar is so low. We just need the 30% that gave the indication to actually fill out the form. And we apologize that these are some legal disclosures that we need to collect, but we want to ensure that we do it the proper way so that the company doesn't have legal technicalities and formalities to reject our request, which they're surely going to do. So that's why the form is somewhat technical in terms of some of the things that we ask for. But please just fill out the form and let's effectuate the change you deserve.
All right, we got Nelson.
Thanks, Tony, and thanks to you, Tony, Mike, Michael. I see a lot of familiar names here as well. All these forced friendships. Good to see everybody here. My question is around timing. Obviously, we're not going to catch the bull market here at Ionic, but in terms of shareholder meeting, when can that happen? After that, what happens? Sequencing, timing, like how do we actually track the progress, and when should we, when can things actually start moving?
Yeah, Tony, maybe I can take that one too. So again, the timeline will be governed by the bylaws of the company in Delaware corporate law. As soon as we get 30% or 25%, actually, sorry, we will write a letter, to the company, informing them that we have the shareholder support and that we are calling a special meeting or requesting to call a special meeting. The company then has 90 days to respond to that request, right? Ideally, we would have some negotiations, as Mike Cagney mentioned, which would accelerate that accelerate that process. And so the hope would be if everyone can fill out the form, we can effectuate some change within the within the calendar year. And we know that we've been somewhat quiet over the last month in particular in terms of communicating the process, but we have been working tirelessly behind the scenes to get a lot of these ducks in a row so that as soon as we've come to the point that the decision has been made, that the board has been replaced, we can effectuate that change quickly. And so I'll just leave by saying that we will do our best to communicate the status on this process going forward. And we realize that we would have liked to have been more communicative in the past month, but we were somewhat hamstrung.
Well, your communication's been a lot better than Ionic's. I don't know if you can answer this question, but have we formally asked them to resign and they have refused?
Those conversations are ongoing.
I mean, we've all tagged Scott and Tom a million times to resign. I think as long as they have an ounce of self-reflection, they have to know that their time's up.
Yeah, that's right. It's just a matter of time. Pull the Band-Aid off now.
As far as time goes, once we submit the letter, they would have 90 days to call the meeting. They can do it on day one. So we really kind of need them to do the right thing here, probably for the first time.
Yeah, and that's why it matters. Like we can call the meeting with 25%, and maybe they'll play games and wait 90 days to call the meeting. We call the meeting with 75%. They're going to call it tomorrow, right? So again, the more support we have, the better.
Got it. Appreciate everyone's efforts. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions on the forum? There was an issue. It looks like it's been resolved. I don't know if we just had too many people accessing the forum at once, which I guess is a very good problem to have, but I think we should be good now.
So do you guys have a general idea of a timeline, how things might shake out, assuming we get the representation we need from
Yeah, I mean, if the 30% of the people who indicated our interest can fill out that form tomorrow, we will make the special meeting request on Monday. And then, it can move really quickly from there.
Okay, thank you.
Can't happen soon enough, in my opinion.
I have a question for Michael Abbate. I was just wondering if it goes your way. When do you think we are going to get the liquidity? Will it be this year or will it be in 2025?
Yeah, well, as Mike Cagney said before, we willing to commit to standing up a marketplace within 90 days of taking control.
So it's a multi-layer answer, right? So if it happens today, like I said, they can get the stock trading pretty much the 90 days or whatever, because we got to have the people ready to buy, because there's going to be a lot of sellers. But if it were to happen today, we would have time to look at what's going on operationally, and you would have to leave some cash to run the business, obviously, but you don't need all that cash. You don't need that giant slush fund. We can distribute whatever isn't really needed, operationally back to shareholders.
Is there any mechanism that can be put in place that can be of value to those that really need to sell and access liquidity, relative to those that maybe can sit on it for on a lock period for a couple months? Because
the mechanism is twofold, right? Like I said, the 2,000 or so Bitcoin, we can distribute that, right? Whatever amount, we can distribute that to the shareholders pretty much right away. The minute it's listed on the Figure blockchain, you could do it very quickly. This will be the first Bitcoin miner to ever issue a dividend in Bitcoin in kind. So there would be a lot of appeal there. Other investors might look at that and be like, oh, okay, that's actually not that bad. If you mine Bitcoin and you can do it efficiently, I can make some return in Bitcoin versus, the only way to make money otherwise is to sell the stock in these other Bitcoin mining companies. So there's that. So the people that are shareholders today, they can get some of their money back. And then if they need to sell, I mean, let's be realistic, right? It's going to be some type of discount. I don't know what the demand is for this, but right away, it's not going to be that high. But at least you'll get some of your money back, through the Bitcoin that's on the balance sheet. And then whatever you can get for the shares, hopefully it's a high number, but we really don't know. And then the people like yourself and myself and whoever else, that are willing to wait a long term to, see what we can make out of this company, you could potentially have the upside there.
I love the idea though of actual dividends paid out in Bitcoin from a mining company. That would be brilliant. Yeah.
That was one of the reasons why, figure outside of my relationship with Cagney and Abbate, it's something that you really can't do anywhere else. And it doesn't mean that, let's say we write the ship, doesn't mean you can't list on the NASDAQ. But if you wanted to issue dividends, you could do it on Figure.
That's great.
There's no one size fits all, basically. There's a lot of things that can happen, just a matter of, picking the right people to make those things happen.
But Tony, I was talking to you in the Telegram, but you made a calculation that it will be maybe like $13 a share if you with everything included, something
That
like
was
that.
like a back of the napkin math, ballpark what we can get. We don't really know how real that number is. The number that is real is, the Bitcoin on the balance sheet, which is equivalent to like $5 or so per share.
Okay, that's clear.
Yeah. The facilities are valuable, right? There's a lot of people that would want these facilities, but you don't know what they're willing to pay for it, because everybody wants everything, right? If you give me something for free, I'll take it even if I don't want it. But if I have to pay a large sum of money, that's when you really know what something is truly valued in the open market. If it costs you $100, but you can only get 50, then it's only worth 50. And if you paid 100 and someone's willing to give you 200, then it's worth 200. But that's
Hey,
something that we have to find out.
I got an idea, Tony. How about we sell it to Hut 8?
Yeah, it's a good idea. Pretty sure Asher had that same idea, just in bankruptcy, not on the open market.
Oh, he doesn't want to pay for it. Okay.
Allegedly.
But if we go through the Figure blockchain, then we don't have anything to do with Odyssey anymore, correct?
No, Odyssey is just a custodian. All they're doing is they're just holding the equity. They were told by the company, by the board, that they're not allowed to let us trade with each other. So all they're doing is holding it. You can go to Odyssey, you could go to one of a million different companies that do the exact same function, or you can list it on the ATS, on the Figure blockchain. It's basically the same.
So if it will be listed on the Figure blockchain, then we will probably get an email with like a username and a password. Then we can log in and then we can sell.
I mean, I don't know specifically how they would handle that process, but more or less.
Well, you guys should all go to figuremarkets.com and you should see the exchange. It's a phenomenal exchange, employs MPC technology with non-custodial wallets for trading. Sign up, get a wallet, go trade some Bitcoin, and you can see how easy it is to trade on our platform. And that same exact interface will be the interface that you use to trade your stock. So you'd log in, right? You'd see your wallet, you would see Bitcoin in your wallet, you'd see cash in your wallet, USDC, or bank deposits. Maybe you have some deposits in our yielding fund, which is called the LRWA fund. And then you'd see your Ionic stock. And just like you trade Bitcoin, where you go to the order book and you see the order book, you click on your Ionic stock and you would see the order book for the Ionic stock, and you can see where it's trading, and you can choose where you'd want to sell that stock. And you can put an order in above the market, right? Or you could hit the bid in the market. It'll give you all that power to trade your stock from a bearer / custodial basis, like you trade Bitcoin on our exchange, but it'll be a publicly registered stock, which is really new and exciting and innovative.
That's brilliant, Michael. I gotta say, I'm super happy. So just between us, not like this is public, right, or viral, but I gotta say, I'm super happy. I got my loans refied with Figure, and honestly, your people and everything, and obviously, we've never spoken before, but it's been a great experience, customer experience on the user side, the user, the user dashboard and everything with all of my loans I got refied from Celsius. It's been a great experience with Figure, so I'm very encouraged from what I know so far about your platform.
Great, thank you. Spread the word.
I think Santiago was one of the people that had issues refinancing, and then I had to.
Hey Tony, I purposely left that out.
Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter.
I know.
But yeah,
Right.
so he had issues
refinancing with someone else.
with someone else.
Well,
Yeah,
with another, with someone else. Yes.
Yeah, with someone else, and then I had to. I think I called Abbate, like, "Hey, I need your help."
Tony, you did. Thank you so much, Tony. You did, and you called one of these guys, and immediately they got everyone in motion and got me out. So I really appreciate y'all.
So fun fact. I'm not shilling anything. Obviously, there's risk here, but I think you can use the Ionic stock to top off your loan collateral, right?
That'd be awesome.
We would facilitate that.
Yeah. So even if you're not selling the stock, right, whatever it's trading at, doesn't really matter the price. But if you get close to, potentially liquidation level or whatever, you just want to add some safety so you can sleep better at night with your loans. You can use your stock to add more of a cushion there. I'm not telling anyone.
We would let you
anything.
borrow against your stock as well. So if you don't want to sell it, you can just borrow against it.
Yeah. There's a lot of PTSD here, I understand, from Celsius crowd. I'm just throwing that out there. No one has to do it. I'm just telling you it's a cool feature that they've allowed us to do. Or, they will allow, I guess.
12% on our earn account. What is Figure paying? Just kidding. That was horrible, right? 12% on the earn accounts. Oh my god. Okay.
So I just opened up the form now. If anyone has seen, if anyone's having issues, you can look at it in the comments. I made like the comment to the spaces. I mean, I made a post. There's also a PDF there, just kind of walking you through it. If anyone's had trouble, I haven't seen anyone that's had trouble. No one has told me, at least so far. I think we got it down to as simple as humanly possible, outside of the form crashing, I guess, from too much volume.
I'm just wondering where we're at percentage-wise today.
Well, as I mentioned before, we had 30% indications, just under 30% indication. Right. I have not gone through. We just went out with the forum yesterday. Yeah. I've not gone through and tabulated it all. There were, some issues. Like Tony said, we broke the internet. We broke the forum. Right? There were too many.
That's good. That's a good indicator.
Yeah, too many people signing up. We fixed those issues, and then we're launching a media campaign, an outreach campaign, and that's why it's so important, to engage the community, to get out there. If you guys can all, post, repost, forward, tell your friends, other shareholders how important it is to sign up, because now what we need to do is it's one thing to have people go and just say, these are my shares, I pledge them, but we have a very specific form that we need to fill out, which has very specific disclosures, and these are all based upon Delaware corporate law, and they're all essentially disclosures to basically inform the company of who actually is making the special request. And unfortunately, these are not requirements set by us. They're not even some of these requirements are not even set by the company, right? They're set by corporate laws in Delaware. And I think that's probably the only obstacle, is the nuance, or the nuisance, I should probably say, of people filling out the form. but I'm pretty optimistic that we'll get at least the 30%, you know, if not more, from this most recent campaign. And then the question is just how quickly do we get that, and how quickly can we get this meeting?
Yeah, got it. I know a lot of people like me just want to move on, and we're eager and anxious. Thanks for everything again. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I guess we can end it here.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, everyone that attended. This is recorded, so I'll post it. If anyone has any issues or any problems or whatever, just shoot me a DM or whatever. You all have my email. I created one for this specifically, shitcodescam, I think, at gmail.com. I forgot what the actual email is. But you all know it, I think. Either way, let's get this thing done. All right, guys. Thank you. Everyone take care.